How we doing, folks? And welcome to another edition of The Other Side. We're going to get right into it tonight because we've got a lot of information we want to cover. And I want to say good evening to my partner, Paul Fournier. How you doing, Paul?
Good. How are you, Bob?
I'm living the dream.
A little better tonight?
A lot better tonight.
All right, we've got everybody knows, I'm not sure if everybody knows, but we have a Facebook site that we've been using to get messages across, information across. And at first it started out a little bit slow, but the last 2-3 weeks it's really exploded with people that have 124 likes, maybe even a little bit more now. We've had some postings hit 150 to 185 looks on it. In other words, people actually going to that post, and whether they read the entire thing or not, the thing is that they're interested in and they're looking at it. So what I really wanted to do is, number one, it's www.facebook.com/The Other Side for You. So, and the 4 is the number 4, and it's just you. So maybe we can write that out and show everybody after. But we've been using the Facebook page as a great forum to get information out to people. And one of the things that I wanted to hit on, and I'm a little disappointed that we haven't gotten any answers on, other than, gee, Bob and Paul, it's going to cost you X amount of dollars to get that information.
Yeah, $438.
Okay. Well, and that's just the tip of the iceberg, because you know there's more coming behind that. You know, is one, we were looking for some information to get back to the taxpayers. We were looking for salaries for administrators.
Why don't you just read the post we put up there? Read the letter we sent out to them originally.
Well, it's going to be a little bit long, and I'm not really sure where it went to tell you the truth.
And folks, if you want to go on Facebook and make it easy on yourself, you can just go to the Facebook page and just go to the top of the page. In that little search column, you can punch in The Other Side, and you can also find The Other Side that way. And what Paul's referring to was a letter we had sent out to Dr. Malvey. We were looking for some specific information about budgetary issues. And I feel like we're getting not stonewalled, but we're definitely being put in financial straits. And we were told that it was going to cost 12 hours of their time to procure this information. And he figured the cost was going to be roughly about $438.
Plus.
Yeah, plus. And under the Freedom of Information Act, you're able to get 2 hours for free and up to 100 copies. And I've done this with Roger Pomprian before, whenever I asked Roger Pomprian for any information. And Roger was always very forthcoming with it, no problem. What Dr. Malvey's trying to make this sound like, for the information we're looking for, do you have it up there, Paul?
I do.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and read it.
All right, so what we did is we wrote a letter to Dr. Malvey, and this is the 3 things that we're requesting. One is the payroll records of the last 5 years for all employees in the Blue House, which is the administrative building, administrators, principals, pupil services, that type of stuff. The second question we asked him is, we're looking for information on grants, including what grants have been procured over the last few years, who wrote the grants, and if anyone was being paid to write those grants outside of their already existing contract or payroll. And it's our understanding, and we're going to get into this a little bit deeper into the show, but it's our understanding that some administrators and others have been allegedly paid for writing the grants or participating in the execution of these grants. So I don't know if it's a double dip. I'm not sure what the policy is, but I will tell you that our town administrator clarified this for me. He writes grants.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. He gets paid to write the grants, and he doesn't take any money out of them. That's designed to go to the town or whatever that project is. It seems as though we have people writing grants, and they take money out of it, and then whatever's left over goes to the kids, or goes to the program, or goes to the school.
Well, what Adam said was you can hire a grant writer to specifically write grants. That's totally within the realm of, doing it, and also carrying out the function of the grant. Whether or not, and I'm not saying it's legal or illegal, because I don't really know, because school function is totally different than government function when it comes to stuff like that. But there has been allegations that administrators and secretaries have benefited from these grants, and if we're getting these grants for students, then how come it's going to other people?
That's my point exactly.
And that's
one of the reasons why we asked them that. And then the third thing we asked them, and this is granted people, this is the first email we sent him.
Right.
We've got a follow-up email requesting some stuff, and then we've got another one that we're going to be sending out shortly. So prior to the October 26th special town meeting, an anonymous letter went out to the district and all selectmen alleging that the school district was misusing or hiding funds. we don't really know until we.
It was an anonymous
Right,
letter.
it was an anonymous letter. So shortly before the town meeting and after 3 overrides were shot down by the voters, over $800,000 was magically found in the system. We're looking to find out what accounts those came from, and we'd like a copy of the money transfers for each of these accounts, where they came from and what accounts the money went to. And that was written, gosh, I don't even know, it was 3 weeks ago? Maybe?
Yeah, and Dr. Melby responded in a decent amount of time.
You know, but he said he would get us the stuff, but the second one was, I think, was the most
Was the
disturbing
cost.
when he put together the cost. Now, we're supposed to have a state-of-the-art bookkeeping system. At least that's what we were told.
Well, you think it would be computerized. We're not talking dusty ledgers. You got to go and clean all the dust off and go back and look through all these records. We're looking for 5 years. 5 years. We're talking a mouse click and print the page out. Just give me a summary report. That's all we're looking for.
That's all we're looking for. So,
And we'll clarify that in our next letter to Dr. Malvey. To be fair, we will clarify this to Dr. Malvey, and I'm sure this price is going to drop drastically. And folks at home, so you understand, we're not asking for anything that is not public information. All of this, salaries, payroll, pensions, how money is spent, how it's dispersed, this is all form and function. This is all part of the process, and you as a citizen also have that right to request that information under the Freedom of Information Act. So we're not asking for anything that's out of the realm of, what we should be asking for. We said from the beginning the show was going to be about asking the questions that nobody else seems to be asking. So we're doing our job.
well, now, actually, you just brought that up, and the questions that nobody asked before. So being on the school committee prior, and you get into a trust factor with, you're paying somebody $150,000 a year to run a business,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not gonna get into a big long discussion about this because it's water under the bridge, and we've already beat the dead horse. And I don't care how many things that you want to bring up, but there were things that were done and things that were said and things that were done again that a lot of us on the school committee had no clue about. Okay, that being said, it's probably, and I'll take some of the heat on this. I didn't ask enough questions. I didn't ask enough questions because the numbers seemed okay. Everything seemed right, okay? And when we were together in the budget subcommittee, the numbers seemed right. But it was like when the three of us left and somebody went back to their office, all of a sudden things changed. And we wouldn't notice it until we picked something up at the next school committee meeting. I mean, we're not there. We're not running the business for them. I can't spend 8 or 10 hours in the administration office watching what people do because I have my own business to run and I have to create income for my family so I can put food on their table. Being on the school committee was supposed to be not a watchdog, but I guess maybe
It's a volunteer.
it's a volunteer watch. And so, that being said, I want to make sure that we ask enough questions. The deeper you get into this, the deeper you get in, the cloudier it is. It's clear as mud. I like using that. That's what it is. It's
Good
clear
analogy.
as mud. I have never seen anything so reckless in my life. You look at the town of Shrewsbury, who 3 or 4 years ago was one of the top 3 or 5 in the state, not in Worcester County, in the state for education. And guess what they asked for last week? Guess what the superintendent came to the town
was a
with?
stunner.
15% increase in the school budget. $7.8 million. What the heck? Where did that come from? This was supposed to be one of the top school districts in the state, and and if you read the story, it says, well, you've underfunded for the last 3 to 5 years. You've underfunded. That's what it said. Crazy stuff. I'm telling you, folks, the system's broken. It needs to get blown up, and we need to do something else. And if we don't start sticking up and standing up for ourselves, this is going to continue, and
left
the
behind.
public school system is going to get flushed right down the toilet.
It's already halfway there.
So,
one of the things, and I want to thank everybody who's contributed to the Facebook site. It's been a really nice success. It's really surprised us for the short amount of time it's been up there. There's a lot of people getting involved in a conversation. We would encourage people to keep getting involved in a conversation. Hats off to the folks in Spencer, East Brookfield, The Concerned Parents group on Facebook, I understand, is also raising a lot of questions and concerns, and I applaud you guys for that, and way to keep that site going, and continue to keep asking questions, because the only way this is going to change is by clearing this stuff up. One thing we wanted to go over, there was a couple things. Pardon me. Excuse me. There was a couple things last show. We had Mr. Norquist on that we didn't know at that time. We weren't positive of, and now we are. So we just want to clear up a couple things real quickly. When we talked about Karen Zaleski having 2 or 3 hats, she actually wears 5 hats. She's a guidance director. She's a homeless liaison. She's a preschool coordinator. She's a special education director. She's a Title I director, and she's the head of curriculum, more or less. She works under Dr. Malvey. So she's basically doing 6 things. And that begs the question, are we going to keep doing things the same way over and over and over? We just tried doing Maple Street and Lake Street with one principal, and that didn't work. That was a train wreck. You can't keep doing the same things the way we've done it in the past. We have Wire Village, has an interim principal up there. Why do we have an interim principal? Why don't we have somebody who's going to come in
because that's
there
the way
and
the
own that
district runs.
building?
The district is put duct tape here, put duct
nuts.
tape there. Appreciate the fact that Dr. Malvey came in and bailed us out and got us, he's a superintendent. But
I don't know that he bailed us
well,
out.
I shouldn't say bailed us. I said helped us out is more.
Okay.
It's a fiasco to come in here. It's a
there's
fiasco.
no question. There's no question.
So that being said, at the day he started, or shortly after that, I'm not sure why. Oh, wait. The new school committee members wanted to be a part of it. I understand that. So May, we have elections. The 2 new guys come on. Why the day after, the meeting after, why was there not a superintendent search committee put together right then and there? Oh, wait a minute. Well, it's not a good time to search for superintendents right now. You really have to do it in July and blah, 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 blah. I've never seen anything like it. Create this.
We were in July.
Create the committee.
We were in July.
Create the committee. Create a superintendent search committee, and get the resumes collected. And if you don't like them, you throw them away, and then you start again.
The last school committee meeting, you heard Mr. Clutie get up there and say, well, we really need to wait until next September. Seriously? We need to wait until next September. We're a district in crisis. We're in free fall. We got 2 level 3 schools. We got Wire Village, from what I understand, was a level 3 school, gone to a level 2, might be heading back down towards a level 3 again. It's like this is absolute. It's a ridiculous situation. I mean, how many times do we keep doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different result?
It doesn't happen that way.
And to say, and in fact, and this is the part that amazed me, because apparently Mr. Clutie never got the memo on this, and I'm going to read this. This is directly from the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. A district deemed to have a critical shortage of certified teachers for the purpose of, and it goes on and gives the section that it comes from, may employ retired teachers subject to all laws, rules, and regulations governing the employment of teachers. The period of determination of a critical shortage shall not exceed 1 year. In order to continue this provision beyond June 30th, 2014, your district must once again demonstrate a good faith effort to hire personnel who have not retired. Now that tells you in a nutshell that Dr. Malvey cannot go on again for another year without special dispensation, which, God knows that could happen. Somebody might be looking to do something like that. And nothing would surprise me in this district, especially with our 2 newest members. But the bottom line is the law reads that you have to have a superintendent search in place. It has to be a good faith effort prior to June 30th.
Well, maybe they're running around saying, "Where's Dr. Malvey? Where's Dr. Malvey?" Isn't that a search? What was that? Where's Waldo?
It's ridiculous. It's like we're a district in crisis, and we should have somebody coming in here and owning this district. Bottom line. Somebody needs to come in, take charge of this, try to put these pieces back together and get us moving as one cohesive force instead of what's going on right now. Because from everything I'm hearing and from some of the feedback we've gotten since we've put up the Facebook site,
well,
it's a whole other story out there from what they're telling you at school committee meetings.
You know what? A lot of the feedback is internal.
Oh, absolutely.
It's coming from people that work in the district that have realized that we have become a voice. They can't say anything for fear of retribution, which is okay.
Absolutely.
So I'll get an email, a text, a private message, stuff like that. And guess what? You guys can't touch me. I can do whatever I want. I'm good with that. You know, the people out there that want to talk to us and whisper in our ear and say, hey, this is what's going on, I'm all for it. Your name will never get used. Anything that you've sent me has already been erased. Nobody will ever find the tracks. So, and at this point, that you really need more people to stand up like that. You need more people to come out of the woodwork and say, okay, we're not afraid. You know, we're going to talk.
Well, what does it say about a culture where you feel like your job is at
It's a
stake
bully
if
system.
you step up, and we have a bullying protocol, Paul.
Oh,
quite
it's amazing.
ironically. Imagine that. It's like you can't bully people, but you can bully fellow school committee members, and you can bully fellow teachers. You know.
But you can't bully kids.
Pardon me. I apologize, folks. I'm coming off of a nasty hang here. It's a professional development day that they just had recently. We got a lot of feedback about that.
Huge.
And that was, from what I understand, for all intent and purposes, they should have just taken that half day off.
Benny Hill.
Yeah.
If you've ever watched Benny Hill,
Chinese fire drill.
that's what it was. I had I'm going to say a handful because I'm not going to say the number. Talk to me, like again through both messaging and email and personal. And literally they saying, I should have stayed home or stayed with my kids. I wasted money. Thank God I had a babysitter lined up. Or it was a joke. It was a complete joke. It was Captain Chaos, really is what it was. The people were going out everywhere. Well, you guys kind of go over here and you do this, and that's not professional development.
No, there's nothing professional about it from the sounds of it. I mean, from what we're hearing, I mean,
It's
that's all
called
we can go
development,
by.
but they're developing an attitude that this district it's got no leadership.
It's a boat without
None.
a rudder.
Zip, zero, no leadership.
And that, again, goes back to what I think when you've got Dr. Malvey in there. And, you know, there's no other way to put it, folks. You got somebody in there who's collecting a pension, okay? And I don't have a problem. There was an article in the paper about Dr. Malvey, and Dr. Malvey said critics need to get over double dipping.
I'm not going to get over it.
I don't have
I have a problem with it.
I don't have a problem
I have a
with that.
problem with it.
I
You want to go
personally-
back to work, your pension gets put on hold.
No, I understand that. I understand your feeling. What I'm saying is, for the purposes of this argument, I really don't care how much he makes. He's probably pulling down $250,000 a year.
I don't know.
between his
hearsay.
pension, and that's fine. That's knock yourself
It's not
out.
fine.
But you don't have any skin in this game. If something comes up and it's from something from before Dr. Malvey has carte blanche to say, well, that didn't happen on my watch.
If he's pulling in a pension, why does he need $150,000?
Because that's the going rate. This is the going rate for what these
It's not
ex-superintendents are
going rate.
getting.
It's not the going rate for this
That's what
size
they're paying?
district. The Wachusett superintendent's getting $157,000. In his district, there's four.
Oh, I
times,
agree. As far as district size, no,
His
absolutely
district's
not.
4 times the size of ours.
Absolutely not. We're not getting any bargain.
We could combine our district with Oxford, right? Pay one person $157,000. It would be the same size as Wachusett.
And we got grief for hiring Naaman in 2010 for $150,000. They're like, well, how come you're giving him so much? And it's like, well, that's because everybody else in the district, and they pretty much would. We looked around, and that's what the district was bearing.
It's time for a correction.
But
Sorry.
my point is, with Dr. Malvey in there, there's no sense of ownership of the district, because you know what? At some point, you're going to leave. So whatever you do and whatever changes you put into place, if it doesn't work, you don't own it. You're not under contract for 3 years. I want somebody in here who's going to be here for 3 years that's going to own it, lock, cart, and barrel. That's it. Period. They're gonna own this thing outright. Right now, we don't have that, and we got 2 committee members who are screaming that they want to keep Dr. Malvey on. Now, you got to ask yourself the question: why?
I don't know. Speaking of school committee members, this kind of segues right into another set of questions that we will soon be sending to Dr. Malvey. As you know, we should be well on to the school budget of FY15. I'm not even sure where that stands, to tell you the truth.
I know the school committee's not working on it.
Well,
Josh, you want to jump in on this? I know you've been more or less not involved with this.
Well, as far as the school budget goes, nobody's seen one. I haven't seen one. I haven't seen anything to do with the school budget. It's the story of this district. All we do is triage problems. Going back to the superintendent, we hired an interim superintendent because we needed one really fast. Then we said, well, we'll put it off till the fall. Fall came. Well, it's not the right time. Now it's midway through the winter and it's too late. We're back to hiring an interim superintendent. Same thing with the budget. We should have started the budget last fall. We asked about starting the budget last fall, and everybody, I don't know, maybe they were deaf for that part of the meeting, but a number of committee members said, well, why are we still messing around with this, FY14 budget? Why aren't we working on the FY15 budget? And they ignored us, and we haven't done it. I'd like to know who's coming up with the budget. We've got to get it to the town by the 19th of February, I believe.
That's
well, the
a
next
preliminary.
school committee meeting isn't until what, February 11th?
Yep.
So you're telling me we're going to bring it up and work a budget in a couple of days? Or are you going to present the budget, stick it in front of us, say vote on it, and send it to the towns? That's worse than anything the previous
That
school
would be-
committees have done,
That would be a train
right?
wreck.
I mean, the previous school committees supposedly didn't meet enough to create a decent budget.
Well,
even
that was
though
the
they met.
accusation by Mr. Hayes and Mr. Cloutier when
Right.
they were running for office.
Even though they met. This one, we haven't had one meeting, not one meeting on the FY15 budget. We have to have it to the towns by the 19th.
Do you have
That
a,
seems pretty irresponsible to me.
do you have a budget subcommittee?
We don't have.
Don't have subcommittees.
Other than
Oh,
a
that's right.
collective
I
bargaining committee, we don't have subcommittees.
I forgot about that.
And why don't you have subcommittees, Josh?
They didn't want to do things supposedly behind closed doors. And I will say, for the record, because I was on the Finance and Facilities Subcommittee and I was the chairman of the Policy Subcommittee, we did meet in public. We posted those meetings, and members of the public came to them, and they got a lot of work done. They get a lot of the legwork done that you don't want to have the committee having 3-4 hour marathon meetings trying to do. They get all the legwork done, they bring it to the committee asks the questions, they kick it back to the subcommittee if they need to. That's how you do it. That's how you develop a budget, that's how you develop a policy, that's how they work on curriculum. Mary was the chairwoman of the curriculum
Correct.
subcommittee. So I guess not to drag on here, but I guess in closing what I want to say is we triage in this district, okay? We have a problem. It's like when something breaks. We get a problem, and all of a sudden, we're rushing to fix it. We're rushing to fix a budget. We're rushing to get a superintendent. We're rushing to fix a freezer. And we get by, and we move on to the next problem. We don't actually think ahead. We don't actually do things in a timely fashion. And that's a story of the district.
See 6 schools.
And that was Mr. Hayes, for the record, who said that the subcommittees were illegal, which is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life, because it's like every single school district in the state of Massachusetts functions, like Josh said, with subcommittees, because subcommittees do the legwork, so you can bring these policies together and vote on them at the meeting.
You have state and federal subcommittees.
Well, did somebody better tell them? Because they could
They're all
possibly be
Son
illegal.
of a gun, they're all illegal.
Those crazy guys, I'm
Nitwits.
telling you.
But anyways, we've got. Let's segue. Let's just talk. We'll talk real quick about that. So we've formed another set of questions that we're going to be sending off to Dr. Malvey. We've had a chance to talk, review them a little bit, and that's going to work right into school budget. So the first question that we are going to be sending to Dr. Malvey is, who's been working on the school budget? Is there a subcommittee formed to work on the budget? If not, who made that decision and why? In other words, if there is no subcommittee, who made that decision not to have subcommittee and why? Why not have, 2 or 3 people, 3 people from the school committee be involved with the budget discussion? Or is it just...
Well, you would think, how are they going to own the budget? As everyone has said to them, the school committee didn't see anything going on in the last budget, so it's like, well, they were, and you explained all that already,
Right,
but it's like,
right.
how can they expect this school committee to know anything about this budget when they haven't had a chance to even lay eyes on it?
I understand.
Doesn't make
understand.
any sense whatsoever.
understand.
No sense.
All right, so the second question that we have written down that we're going to ask is, why have some school committee members been locked out of meetings and no longer receive emails or updates? Which is true. We've got a couple of school committee members who they get no more notification, none, zero. But they're still part of the school committee now, and I understand that their terms are up in May, but that's BS as far as I'm concerned. You don't eliminate 2 school committee members because they don't listen to your ideas or they don't like
Well,
your
they couldn't
ideas.
bully him off the committee like they did with John Howard. So and they plan on
that's-
staying around till the end. So it's like, this is what you get. You're going to stick around. All right, fine. I'm going to freeze you out.
Yeah. The third question that we have, this goes back to the grant writing. And pretty much what it says, allegedly, there's a rumor out there that Mrs. Ahern, who's a retired principal from Maple Street / Lake Street, has been writing grants. And I know she's been frequenting the pupil services area. This has come as this is real information. We want to know if so, how is she getting paid to write those grants? Because if she's retired, she's on a pension, right? She should have started collecting her pension. So we're paying her somehow. She's getting paid by the grants. Do we have a line item for this? Anyways, so allegedly Mrs. Ahern has been writing grants. If so, how is she getting paid to write those grants? Is there a line item in the budget for a grant writer? Is that what her real name is in the budget?
Because we have to have line items for everything that's spent.
Correct. Okay, so question number 4, allegedly, and this is just a rumor, there's a secretary that works at Lake Street, her name's Pat Simonovich, is also assisting writing grants. And we want to know what are her qualifications for writing grants, because she's a secretary. Take that for what it's worth, but that's her status as secretary. If so, how is she getting paid? And is she getting paid over and above her secretary salary for helping or assisting in writing these grants? Do we have a line item in the budget to carry the cost of assistant grant writer? Because is she a secretary? Is she an assistant grant writer? Is she helping Mrs. Ahern, who's a retired principal who should be collecting a pension?
Is this a function of the secretary? Is that part of her job description?
Well, no, her job description
I doubt, but it's like,
She's supposed to be a secretary at Lake Street.
That's my point.
The fourth thing that I got fourth twice. So the fifth thing that we want to answer about is, this goes back to professional development. It is my understanding that you are overseeing professional development and curriculum. If this is true, and with your vast knowledge of professional development, he's the superintendent. He should know what goes on with professional development, right? Hands-on, right away. Why is it the last professional development day was such a circus, and according to many sources, not even worth their time? Right?
Good question.
Okay. Number 5, and this is number 6. I'm sorry. This has to do with Wire Village that we brought up before. Has there been a committee formed to find a permanent principal for Wire Village School? Now we're in January. We've only got 5 more months of school left or so. If not, then why?
When are you going to start that search?
Right. For what it's worth, I for one, this is my own personal opinion, okay? And I don't speak for anybody else. And many others have decided that the interim principal is just not getting the job done. And she seems to be over her head. Apparently, there's a lot of telephone calls going to different administrators saying, geez, what do I do now? What do I do now? What do I do now? Instead of grabbing the bull by the horns. I don't even know what her experience is.
I have no idea.
So
I was surprised to find out she was interim principal.
She's from Rhode Island, too. Not that makes a difference, So, and the last thing, which we've already touched on and we've kind of beat up a couple of times, is has there been a committee formed to search for a new superintendent? If not, then why? Give me an answer why we haven't gone ahead and put a committee together, a group together to search for a new superintendent.
And keep in mind, if they vote on that at the February meeting, you got 6 months to do it. And you only need 4 months to get a superintendent. 4, maybe 5. You're talking 30 days to put it out there. You have to put it out there for 30 days in the paper. Then you got to figure out another 30 days to go through all the resumes and everything. And then the third 30 days, that third month, you actually start interviewing people. You winnow down. The committee goes through it, the search committee goes through it, and they try to figure out whether it's for a principal or for a superintendent. You try to figure out who are your top 5 candidates or whatever you decide is going to be the case. If you're lucky enough to have 5, you hopefully have 3 good candidates. and you move forward with the process, and then you move on. But it does not take 6 or 7 months to get this done, as Mr. Cloutier was more or less alluding to at the last school committee meeting. And it's kind of a misrepresentation, once again, to the public of what actually goes on. And I mean, those are great questions. I mean, you came up with those questions, and you posted on our Facebook page, and those are great. In a way, that kind of dovetails into my question, and we talked about this before, is why is there no training? The thing with Mr. Cloutier and Mr. Hayes, when they came on, they were on a tirade. They told everybody, you need to leave the school committee. You need to get off. You need to put in your resignations. You know, you did meetings behind closed doors. You didn't look at the budget. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. Well, so far, we haven't looked at the budget. We haven't seen a budget. As I'm talking, the school committee has not seen a budget. There's no training. Nothing has been put in place to rectify the mistakes that have been made in the past. And if I listened to every single person at those school committee meetings back in January, it was, you didn't see what was in the budget. Well, what have we done as a school committee to this point to rectify that problem? Are we doing any training? Are we teaching anybody how to read a budget? Are we teaching people how to look at line items and make sense out of them? To the best of my knowledge, none of that's happening. So for these two to sit up there and do this exact opposite of what they said they were going to come in and do, I just find is an absolute farce.
There's no doubt about it.
It's
There's
disturbing.
no doubt about it. I sat at those. Well, I was directly aimed at at those meetings.
Yeah, you were.
I took it. Whatever. It's not that it was a big deal, but I wasn't going to sit there and yell back and forth to them. I knew what had happened internally, and I knew why we were there. I couldn't talk about some of the things because we were legally bound not to say anything.
And nobody understood that.
So the last thing I wanted to do was say, well, guess what, Mr. Cloutier, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, we're whacked with a lawsuit. Unlike some people who have opened their mouths at public meetings and made mention of certain things and they really shouldn't have. But that being said, I don't know. I don't know why we, you listen. You listen to what people say, and you hear what they want to do and how they want to change things. That's good. I'm glad. Rah, rah, rah. I'm very happy for you. The problem is, once you get into the system, and once you get into I like to call it the machine.
Oh, it is the machine.
Okay? Very quickly, things change. And I'm sure they're finding it just as hard to do as we did when we first got on there. When all we wanted to do was make a difference. Do something. My thing was facilities. I didn't like the way the schools looked. I didn't like the lack of preventive maintenance, things like that. But I'm guessing that they're finding the situation the same exact way as what you and I did.
It's like hitting a brick wall.
When we first get in there. But don't go in public chastising people that are trying to do the right thing when you don't have when you're not involved into the situation and only know half of the information. Kind of like, I don't know, Karen Conti, with her letter to the editor in the last Spencer New Leader, where I took her to task on it on a school, on Facebook, but it was tongue-in-cheek. I understand that she's got some concerns, and I know that she wants to see things better in the district, but come on. 13 months ago, I knew there was problems. How come you guys didn't know? Are you kidding me? Nobody, you didn't know any problems. You didn't know where the school even stood.
Karen had a lot, and I said this on Facebook. Karen had a lot of issues with the fact that there was a principal for both the elementary schools, and I agreed 100% with her. Pardon me. And I agreed with her. But as far as fiscal mismanagement, that was not a conversation Karen Conti had, and I don't know how, and I like Karen. I personally, I see Karen at the meetings. She always says hi to me. She's always friendly to me, but you got to stop beating yourself on the back for what a heck of a job you did seeing something after it happened. It's like, oh my God, I did, I'm so tired of everybody doing that. It's like everybody, once that horse race is done, it's easy to pick the winner. On Monday morning, it's easy to spot, well, that's why we lost the championship game because of X, Y, Z. Well, yeah, after the game, shouldn't it always be like that? It's like, but it's not.
Well, it's just, that's that red flag stuff that just drives me up a wall. Anyways, next, carry on.
All right, we want to, Josh, we got enough time to start talking about the DSAC a little bit?
If you want to.
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't you introduce that because you are intimately aware of everything with that.
All right. So the
Just try to
DSAC
hit the
report.
high points.
It is great. It is one of the best things I've read in a long time. It starts out with an overview. Basically, what the DSAC report is, or what we're using it for, is a baseline of everything that is wrong with this district. There's not much positive. So what it does is it starts out with an overview of what the district is, how many teachers we have, how many students we have, how many schools we have, and it comments on the student performance. Level 3 district due to a couple of schools being level 3. We're not narrowing the proficiency gap, which basically we're not making any progress. And then it singles out English language arts. Performance is very low compared to other districts. Math is the same. Performance is very low. Science is very low. And that's all relative to other districts. Further down the report, it has areas of growth, and it states no curriculum coordinator, no set way to review curriculum.
Would that be because we fired the curriculum coordinator?
No.
That would be in there
careful.
too.
Be careful how you say that.
Oh, we didn't fire. We eliminated the line
We
defunded
item.
eliminated the line item. There was no firing. We just eliminated the line item.
Sorry, Josh, I couldn't help myself.
Let me get through this. It does talk about curriculum. It talks about a very high turnover rate in our administrators. It talks about there is no district improvement plan. That's frightening. There is no district-wide model for everybody to have a common understanding of what is expected of them, what is expected to be taught, and a common just concept that we're teaching. We also are not in alignment with the frameworks, which we did adopt. The state of Massachusetts did adopt, and we were supposed to align with it. Now, at the beginning of that section, and I don't want everybody to get blindsided, but hung up on this, because there is a section about the school committee and how much they suck. There's no other way to put it. I can't say that they gave us a good write-up. We suck. They list all of our issues, from the fact that we didn't challenge the superintendent enough on the FY13 budget. They are under the impression that we didn't meet on the FY13 budget, which was wrong. But we didn't challenge him enough, which was right. They talked about the combative nature between the school committee members. If anybody has seen a school committee meeting, you will notice that we sit at opposite ends of the table and flash dirty looks at each other, and that we have an overall lack of credibility. So there's the areas of growth section is really big. They do talk about a few strengths. One of them, and I think Bob, you got a kick out of this, was the eagerness.
Ugh.
Is that a word? Eagerness to teach.
Hungry. I believe
they were
the
hungry?
word was. It was like I read it on the internet. It must be true. The teachers were hungry to teach their students.
Right,
It's
and
like, okay, too bad it doesn't
so-
reflect in the MCAS scores.
that's okay. Whatever. We can go with that. They have a mentoring program, which is good. We don't have. We have not done the state's model for teacher evaluation, which was in the areas of growth. But we do have a mentoring program, and for those of you who don't know what a mentoring program is, basically it's when an older teacher mentors a newer teacher. It's a program that they have to go through when you're a new teacher. They gave some credit to the people who exposed the financial issue. A little late, but yes, they did expose the financial issue. And they talked about some of the initiatives at some of the schools, the math initiatives, which I will say are a positive. They're trying to get those math scores up. They're doing some programs. It's a good thing. And I'm droning on here, and I want you guys to jump in on this. The only other thing I'm going to say, There was a section on human resources and professional development. We don't have professional development. It doesn't exist.
No.
Professional development does not exist in this district. There was the biggest it's ever been for a line item in a budget in the flawed FY15 but FY13 budget, and that didn't get anywhere because that budget was a disaster anyway. The Power School it doesn't work for all the schools, and between Power School and the parent-teacher organizations, there's not a set system or effective system for the teachers and parents to communicate. That was another one of their big ones. And then once again, they commented on the flawed FY13 budget. So, and I'll say it again, the school committee sucks.
Josh, can you hold
You're
on?
saying this is what the DSAC report said.
Yeah,
This
I'm
is-
saying that's what the DSAC
Did
report
they
says.
did they give acknowledgement to who supposedly found this deficit?
Well,
Did they literally give people's names?
No. What they said was there was a few employees that exposed the financial issue. And they did. And once they did and they had proof, the school committee did act.
Within
Anything
24 hours.
before that, sorry, what, Bob?
Within 24 hours.
Right. Anything before that was rumor and conjecture, and you can't. I've said this a number of times. I know I haven't said it on this show, but you can't level somebody's career on rumor and conjecture. You need the back of information. They had it. We acted. End of story. It's over. Let's get over it. And the recommendations section, which was a whole nother 20 pages, I'm not going to go into a long explanation of it, because once I read the first recommendation, which was about the school committee, and it was to go to orientation. That was their recommendation. Go to orientation
That
and do
incredible
more
2-hour
training.
orientation.
I laughed. I put the report down and I went to bed. Because I did go to orientation. I did get the owner's manual. It's about 3 inches thick. And it did not cover what we went through. It doesn't actually cover much, but it definitely didn't cover what we went through. So, you know, the recommendations that they made on some of the curriculum stuff and dealing with some of the teaching issues and the professional development, yes, those were good. But I had to take it with a grain of salt, because after I read that we needed to go to training, it was all downhill from there.
Did they,
But,
as far as that's concerned, did they interview anybody on the school committee that was involved during that budget process?
Okay, so the DSAC was here for 3 days.
Yes or no?
Yeah.
They interviewed somebody on the school committee who was involved in that putting that budget together.
Yeah, I was in
Did
the
Mr.
meeting.
McCarthy get called?
No.
I didn't get called.
No, I was the only one. I was the only one, and I will happily explain to you what happened. They were here for 3 days. They did all their stuff. They went and visited 28 classrooms. They talked to administrators, teachers, parents, yada yada yada. So they had a meeting with the school committee, which was the sitting school committee at the time. We met for about 1 hour. I didn't get to say much. There were other people talking.
When you say the sitting, you mean the school committee that's sitting right now, Josh?
Yes.
Oh, but that was an interesting conversation.
Oh, it was.
Well-
It was a good time.
So did the whole school committee meet during that? Or
I know I was there.
groups of 2 or so? You can't have any
No,
more than 3.
we all met at once.
How'd you do that? Was that a meeting? Was it posted?
To be completely honest with you, Paul, I don't remember. I really don't remember if it was posted.
That's quorum.
That is a quorum. We weren't doing school committee business at that point. We were being interviewed by the state, and when Big Brother pulls you into a room and asks you questions, you do what you're told.
Okay.
So I don't think anybody was questioning them. At that point, what was this, back in June? I believe we were crawling around on our hands and knees with our hands out
Yeah.
in front of the state.
I understand.
So,
It was kind of a joke, but that's all right.
no, I don't remember. I don't remember, but I know that I was there. Mr. Howard was there. Mr. Norquist was there. Mr. Cloutier was there. Mr. Hayes was there. I don't know if Mr. King and Mrs. Gershman were there.
I just find you and I have talked about this before, Josh. I find it curious that they would not have the former members there. You weren't there. Matt McCarthy wasn't there. Yet Mr. Clutie and Mr. Hayes were there. And if I know Mr. Clutie and Mr. Hayes, they had plenty to say.
Yeah, it was
Oh,
about
there's no
good
doubt
word.
about it.
Even though they weren't there for the process, again, they're the red flag types that come in after the process and say, well, this is what they did wrong, and they did this wrong, and they did this wrong. Okay, fair enough.
Listen, we put it together. We had some questions about it. The questions got answered. The money seemed fine. Everything's. I didn't know a guy was going to hire 17 people.
We've been over
I'm
this
beating this thing up again. But
again
why,
and again and again,
you know,
and it comes down to the same thing. There were
we
people,
don't sit in that blue building every single day, 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day. You trust people to do the payroll, and you trust people to do this. And when they saw 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 people being hired, that's when they should have said something.
You talking
because-
to people in the blue building?
Yeah.
They just got a raise. The last thing they're going to do is turn around
Wow.
and turn Dr. Naaman in after. And I'm not saying, but you got to admit, Naaman was slick enough to give everybody, from what I understand,
there
was
you
on
go. You
average a
went and mentioned his
$10,000
name.
raise.
I was trying not to mention his name.
They keep forgetting. Blew that one.
Yeah.
But let's face it, Naaman gave them all raises. Who's going to come forward and say, and turn in the guy that just gave them a raise? A substantial raise, I might add. Not just like a $3,000 or $4,000 raise. We're talking on average a $10,000 raise. Did it buy some silence? I couldn't say. But that idea is certainly out there, because when people came up and started bringing this forward, it was at the very end, and you guys shut him down within 24 hours.
It was
as soon
quick.
as you had information in a letter form, this thing got shut down in 24 hours.
The letter showed up at my door on I forget what day it was. It was
Monday.
a Monday.
It was Monday.
Yeah, because we had a
meeting on
school.
Tuesday.
We
And
had a
within
meeting on
24
Tuesday.
hours, you guys had this thing shut down.
And I read it and I went, oh, because that's when I sent you a text. I sent Mary a text. Everybody's like, what are you talking about? Well, I live closest to the
Right.
school, so I got my letter first.
Right.
But
But
anyways.
even
there's more problems in the district
Yes.
than the budget, okay?
yes,
And
that's
as bad
where
as
I
the,
wanted
as
to
bad
go.
as bad as the budget is or was, this goes back. You can go back 10 to 12 years ago, and they could say the same exact thing that they found now.
Easily.
Okay? The school district never reinvested back into itself. That's why we get computers that are 10 and 12 years old. And that's why we don't have books that are up to date. And that's why we don't have buildings that are taken care of. And that's why we don't have vehicles that are taken care of. Because you got a bunch of people who are self-serving. Period. Done. End of story.
It's the way it's always been.
What have you done for me lately? Invest
What?
back into the schools.
It's the way it's always been. It was, it was the same thing when Dr. Hicks was on, and we went around and I was on a committee with John Stevens and John Rossi and a bunch of other people. And we were on the Capital Needs Committee and went around and looked at every single facility. We looked at refrigerators.
I did the same thing.
Yeah. And when you walk
It's
around
like-
and you start to see how bad it is, especially in buildings that are fairly new, like East Brookfield or like Wire Village, and you see things that are breaking down, because at that time, that was when the boilers were also, not the boilers, the heating system. When they were having trouble, they had the 3-tier system, and one of the
Wire Village.
Wire Village. None of this was being addressed. It was like, well, I guess this is going to fix itself on its own. So, but that's not just the school system. We've always been a town of let's wait until it breaks. Look at the roads.
That's
the
what I was
roads.
saying. That's what I was saying before, that we triage.
Yeah, we just
don't
take the
actually
worst
deal with it.
patient first.
But you gotta, with this report, don't get hung up on the school committee. Don't get hung up on the infrastructure. Get hung up.
Look at the whole
on
thing.
on the education. Get hung up on the fact that our curriculum isn't aligned. Get hung up on the fact that they visited 28 classrooms and observed them, and their words were, the quality of instruction is inconsistent. And there was a lack of what they call good practices, but it was inconsistent. They weren't teaching the same things. I mean, come on, no
Well, and-
district improvement
And,
plan.
and I think that's where we get into leadership. Now, as a superintendent, interim or not, if you came into this district and you saw, well, East Brookfield has different books, they have different ways of teaching things, then let's call it
Nobody's on the same page.
It's called third grade. And you look at third grade at Wire Village, and it's completely different. We don't even have the same report cards. Okay? We got some schools on trimester. We have block scheduling in the high school. We've got other schools that are quarterly. Are you kidding me? As a superintendent, you come in and you say, okay, we're going to finish this year the way it is, but let me tell you something. Next year, this is what we're going to do. Period. Done. You don't like it? Ship out. Done.
I think it's a ridiculous situation, and it's not going to change with the current leadership. It's just, this is not going to change. You need, like I said, you need to have somebody come in and has to own this. And when you start to look at the graphs on the MCAS scores, because there's about 6 or 7 pages of just nothing but MCAS information, it's abysmal. I mean, this district is straight down. You know, we were told in 2010, we were told they have a 100% graduation rate. Not according to the DSAC report.
No.
DSAC report in 2010 had about, and I'm going from memory here, so I could be wrong, was about 86 or 8 to 88% graduation. So we're being told that we're 100% when we weren't even 100% then. You know, and I remember the principal getting up and saying, we graduated 100%. And I look at the report and I'm like, well, this isn't reflecting that.
100%.
And you see the MCAS reports and you're like, we are failing or need improvement in almost every single area of education. From the elementary grades right straight through. There's not, the only thing you could possibly say where it's possibly doing better would be Prouty. But keep in mind, all those kids that are coming up, your kids and all these other kids that are coming up over the next 10 years are being funneled through a system where they're already struggling. What's going to happen when they get to high school? They're going to take a magic pill and all of a sudden, oh, I get it. The lights are going to flash on. Everything's going to go nuts. You know, keep in mind the rumors. Remember the letter I got? I got the letter this year. It was an anonymous letter. Somebody saying that, and keep in mind, folks, this was an anonymous letter. But somebody had sent me a letter saying that they were told at the beginning of the school year not to flunk anybody at Knox Trail. Now, I discarded that and I said, you know, if you're not going to sign it, I'm not going to put much credence into it. But for somebody to take the time to actually write me something like that was very disturbing, and it just goes to some of the things that are wrong in this system, you know. And we have people that are in positions that shouldn't be in those positions. Let's face it. You know, it's a ridiculous situation, and we just keep chasing it. And folks, I apologize for keep beating on the school systems, because it's like we wanted to do a lot more with this show, but it seems like every single week something comes up, and it's the schools again. It's, you know, or there's some major temper tantrum meltdown on the school committee, and it's our job to try to report what we see going on. And unfortunately, this is the most crucial and the most critical thing we're dealing with right now. This is our town's lifeblood.
Well, it's. The school district in any town is the cornerstone. I mean, that's how you draw people in. That's how, you know, usually you get people that rally around the schools and support the plays and the programs and the sports teams. And, you know, it's almost like we don't have that here. It's very, very strange when, I don't know, I see other people doing things on Facebook with their schools and raising funds. And
very proactive.
Very, very proactive. And I just don't understand, you know, I'm going to keep my kids are going to get a good education out of this district. I'll guarantee you that. Nobody can touch me. Unless I accuse somebody of something, nobody can touch me. And it's not right. And if it's the wrong information, you know, then they can come after me. But I will have the right information. Trust me, my kids are going to get a good education out of this district, one way or the other. So you can either stand with me or you can stand against me. Or next to me, but you better do something, because I'm going to continue to dig, and I'm going to continue to dig, and I'm going to continue to ask the questions. And if I don't like the answers, I'm going to ask more questions. Because the deeper you get into the machine, the uglier it is. And it's not just here.
No.
Okay?
No.
It's
We're not
just
exclusive.
It's not just in Spencer. It's not just in East Brookfield. It's not just in Massachusetts. It's throughout this whole country. This system, to lack of a better term, but Josh uses it very good. This system sucks.
He's
the
right.
public school system is awful.
Give me 1 second, Paul. Josh, you want to jump in here?
Well, to what Paul just said, the public school system is awful, and what I wanted to say is, I know I just went through this, you know, brief summary of this report, and I'm not dumping all of this baggage at the feet of one group.
No.
And I think that's a point that I really want to get across here is, and Paul started to make that point, is that the whole system is broken. The funding, how we approach it, every part of this is broken. So I don't want anybody to go back on their heels and feel like I'm attacking them or we're attacking them, and I don't want the lynch mobs to form and start marching around town going after one group. Everybody has ownership in this problem. Taxpayers.
We've said that from day
administrators,
one.
Yeah.
teachers.
But that's the thing.
Us. We
That's
all do.
that's the thing. If you can get enough energy and say, all right, enough is enough. What can we do to help? What do you need me to do? And I understand there's parents that work 2 jobs and stuff like that, and some can't. But you got to get that involvement back into it. You got to get that fresh blood. Enough of the bad stuff. Let's go. Let's get it done. You know, again, I'm going to keep digging. I'm going to keep asking the questions. You don't like the questions, too bad. You know, if you don't like the answers, if I don't like the answers, if you don't like the answers, you're going to dig some more, and you're going to keep asking the questions. Enough is enough. I want my money to go to my kids' education. I don't care about free sand. I want it to go to.
I hope you're right, Paul. Because as a parent of 2 students, I hope you're right, and I hope we're doing the right thing here, because I have 1 student in this district and 1 student that's not in this district, and I see a drastic difference in the education that they're receiving. And the interaction, you know, with those kids, my wife's interaction and mine with their education is roughly the same. We're those parents that make sure your homework gets done and studies with you and everything.
Right.
But there is a drastic difference, and it makes me very nervous. And people do need to get involved, and they need to invest some of themselves in this district, because you're not just sending your kids here and forgetting about it. This is really important here. It's important to fund it. It's important to make sure that the education is happening, that the information is getting to them. And I hope you're right, because I see a drastic difference as somebody who has a student in 2 different places, and it scares me a lot.
Well, I didn't get on the school committee to make sure I wrecked the district. I get on the
Nobody
school.
did.
I get on the school. I got 2 kids in the district. I mean, I can't stand these allegations. You think I just sat there? Go ahead, spend all the money you want. Not a problem. You want some more? Here, I'll give you some more on my wallet. Have some more. Hire another 20 teachers. Drives me up a wall.
Well, it was funny because when you put a post on Facebook and you were very, very open about, you know, you weren't targeting any single individual or group.
Never.
When you talked about the budget and other people seeing this budget, a lot of people took umbrage to that. And they were like, because nobody wants to share any of this. You know, nobody wants to talk about how when a school committee member went to our head of the FinCom in our town,
Looking for advice.
never got a phone call back.
No.
Said, look, we're almost $1 million short in this budget from what I'm seeing. Nothing. Never got a phone call. Was like, oh, fell on deaf ears. But when it came time to shoot that budget down at the next town meeting, man, it was like, you know,
Not a problem.
The bloody red baron. You know, no, you did this wrong and you did that wrong. And then they came forward with another budget at the next meeting, and it was like, oh, no problem. Not that anything substantial had changed, but it was just, oh, okay, well, now we're all on board.
After the fact. This is
like,
the after the fact school
isn't-
district.
It's like, isn't that great? You know, it's like, you got to be kidding. And it's like, and I'm not saying, and Josh said it, and we've said it before. Everybody owns a piece of this. And the one thing I'm happy to see is there are so many parent groups, and there's more parents that are actually starting to pay attention to what's going on now. And that's great. That's nothing, but that's all good. But people
getting-
need to step forward even harder.
Now that we've got the Facebook page, and now that we've got the show, and now that people have kind of warmed up to us and realized that this is not going to be a throw you people under the bus type of thing, they're becoming a little more open, a little more forward with information, you know. So, anyways,
It's, you know, it basically is what it is. I mean, we're hoping the next show we're trying to get Bobby Parsons on. We want to have him come in because people have a lot of misconceptions about the Spencer Fire Department. We want to have him in, and we just want to say thank you to Paul and Josh and Aaron for doing the show with us tonight. And we welcome any input. Come to our Facebook page and check us out.
Email.
Thanks a lot. We got 15 seconds. Anything you want to add, Paul?
no, I'd just like to thank everybody that's contributed to Facebook. Don't give up on this district. We're going to keep asking the questions.
They may not answer them, but we'll keep asking.
See you in 2 weeks.
Thanks a lot, folks. We'll see you later.